Come pick me up. I'm with Rachel. That's the text my husband sent me at midnight. His ex-girlfriend's name. Right there. Bold as day. He wanted me to panic. To cry. To come running and beg him to choose me. But here's what he didn't know. 3 hours before that text, I closed a deal that made me richer than he'd ever be. And the papers I was about to make him sign in front of everyone? They were going to take everything he thought was his. See, for 6 years he called my dreams cute. For 6 years he laughed at what I was building. For 6 years he compared me to the woman he was now sitting with. But that night I walked into that club in a $1,200 dress, rented a Mercedes, and watched my husband's face turn white when I told him the truth. This isn't just a story about revenge. This is about what happens when the person who underestimated you realizes they just lost everything. And if you've ever been called too much or not enough, if anyone has ever made you feel small while you were building something big, you need to stay until the end. Because what I did that night will make you believe in yourself again. Let me take you back to where this all started. Welcome to Reality Stories Hub. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. You ever get that feeling in your gut when you just know something is about to happen? Like the universe is about to test you in ways you never imagined? That's exactly how I felt when my phone lit up at midnight on a Friday evening. My husband's name flashed across the screen, and something inside me already knew this wasn't going to be good. The message read, "I'm at the Golden Lounge with some old friends. Rachel is here too. You should come get me." Rachel, his ex-girlfriend. The one he always seemed to bring up whenever I was feeling good about myself. The one whose name came up more times than I could count over the years. But here's the thing that made me smile instead of cry. Just 4 hours earlier, I had been sitting in a conference room in downtown Chicago, signing the biggest deal of my entire life. And I mean life-changing money. The kind of money that would make everything different. Before I tell you what happened next, I just want to say something real quick. If you've ever felt like someone underestimated you, like someone thought you were less than what you really are, then this story is for you. Stay with me because what happened that night taught me more about my own strength than I ever thought possible. So let me take you back a little bit. Let me tell you how I got to this moment. My name doesn't matter for this story. What matters is that 11 years ago, I married a man I thought was my everything. Let's call him James. James was a corporate financial advisor, the kind who wore expensive suits and worked with high-profile clients. He made good money, around $180,000 a year, and when we met at a friend's wedding, I thought I had found my person. You know that feeling? Like everything just clicks? We got married within a year. Big wedding, beautiful house in the suburbs, 2 cars in the driveway. From the outside, we looked perfect. His parents loved me. My parents loved him. Everyone said we were the ideal couple. But somewhere around year 4, things started to shift. I had always loved baking. Not just regular baking, but creating specialty desserts. Custom cakes, unique pastries, things you couldn't find in regular bakeries. I would spend hours in our kitchen experimenting with flavors, trying new techniques, watching videos, taking online classes. One day, I thought to myself, what if I could turn this into something real? What if this could be more than just something I do for fun? So I started a small business. I called it Sweet Dreams Bakery. I started taking orders from friends, then friends of friends, then small events. I was working out of our home kitchen, waking up at 4 in the morning to bake before James left for work, staying up until midnight decorating cakes after he went to bed. But James thought it was the funniest thing in the world. He would come home from his office, see me covered in flour with icing under my fingernails, and he would laugh. "That's cute, honey. Your little baking thing. Little baking thing." Those words used to hurt so much. When his colleagues would come over for dinner, he would joke about it. "Yeah, my wife thinks she's going to be the next big pastry chef," he'd say, and everyone would chuckle politely. I would smile and pretend it didn't bother me, but inside, I was keeping track. I was watching who he really was when he thought I wasn't paying attention. The more my business started to grow, the more he started talking about Rachel. "Oh, Rachel just got promoted to senior director at her company. Rachel just bought a condo in Manhattan. Rachel is doing really amazing things with her career." It was constant. Rachel this, Rachel that. Always using her success to remind me that what I was doing didn't measure up. So when that text message came through at midnight, with him sitting somewhere with Rachel, asking me to come pick him up, I knew exactly what this was. This wasn't just about needing a ride home. This was a test. This was him saying, "Look who I'm with. Look who still values my time. Come here and remember that you need me more than I need you." But what James didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have known, was what had happened earlier that evening. For hours before that text, I was sitting in a sleek conference room on the 40th floor of a building downtown. Across from me sat representatives from one of the biggest luxury hotel chains in the country. We had been in talks for 8 months. 8 months of negotiations, of them testing my products, of me proving that my desserts were worth what I was asking. And that night, we signed the contract. A $2.8 million agreement to supply custom desserts to over 400 of their hotel restaurants and cafes across the country. $2.8 million. The first payment of $650,000 had already hit my business account while James was sending me that text from the Golden Lounge. That little baking thing he had been laughing at for 6 years? It had just made me wealthy. Not comfortable. Not doing okay. Wealthy. And I was about to show him exactly what that meant. Let me tell you how I got there, because success like this doesn't just happen overnight. People see the end result and think you got lucky, but they don't see the years of work that nobody believed in. That first year of Sweet Dreams Bakery, I made $18,000. That's it. Barely anything. But it was mine. I had earned every single dollar by waking up before the sun came up and going to bed long after James was asleep. I worked those hours because they were the only hours that belonged to me. When everyone else was resting, I was building. Year 2, I made $95,000. Suddenly, James wasn't laughing quite as much. But he still wasn't taking it seriously either. He would say things like, "That's great, sweetie, but don't go quitting your day job or anything." The thing is, I didn't have another job. This was my job. This was my passion. This was everything to me. By year 3, I landed my first major contract with a chain of upscale coffee shops. They wanted my pastries in 15 locations. That year, I made $280,000. I had to move out of our home kitchen and rent a small commercial space. I hired 2 part-time employees. Things were getting real. Year 4, I was doing just over $500,000 in revenue. I hired a full staff, expanded my space, bought professional equipment. I was on local food blogs, getting features in lifestyle magazines, building an Instagram following. People were starting to notice. But James? He was getting quieter about it. He stopped joking in front of his friends, but he found other ways to make me feel small. He would come home and barely ask about my day. When I would try to share exciting news about a new client or a big order, he would change the subject or check his phone. It was like he couldn't stand watching me succeed. And Rachel's name kept coming up more and more. Comparison after comparison. It was like he needed to remind me that no matter what I did, I still wasn't good enough. About 7 months ago, something inside me shifted. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was God trying to tell me something. Maybe it was just my brain finally catching up to what my heart already knew. But I decided to protect myself. I reached out to a lawyer, someone a friend had recommended who specialized in family law. Her name was Mrs. Patterson, and she was sharp as a knife. I sat in her office and told her everything. About the business, about our finances, about how things felt in my marriage. She asked me detailed questions. Really detailed. About our house, our cars, our bank accounts, who paid for what. And after looking at everything, she sat back in her chair and smiled at me. "Honey," she said, "you need to understand something. Almost everything you think is shared. It's actually yours." She explained it all to me. Our house. I had been paying the mortgage from my business account for the past 3 years because James said he needed to save for retirement. The cars? Both in my name because I had better credit. Our savings account? I had been the only one putting money into it for years. James made good money, sure, but he also spent good money. Nice watches, expensive dinners with clients, weekend golf trips, season tickets to sports games. His money went out as fast as it came in. Mrs. Patterson drew up a postnuptial agreement. Papers that would legally protect everything I had built. She looked me in the eye and said, "Get him to sign these, or start preparing yourself for divorce. But either way, you need to know what's yours." I took those papers home and put them in my desk drawer. I didn't know when I would need them. I just knew that someday I would know. Someday, the right moment would present itself. And that night, when James sent me that text from the Golden Lounge with Rachel, I knew. This was it. This was the moment I had been waiting for. So I finished up at my business meeting. We signed all the contracts, took photos, shook hands, toasted with champagne. Everyone was so happy, so proud. My business partner kept hugging me and saying, "You did it. You really did it." And I felt like I was floating on air. I didn't respond to James's texts. Not the first one, not the second one, not the third one that said, "Hello? Are you coming or not?" I just let him sit there and wonder. I drove home and took my time. I took a long shower. I put on this stunning navy blue dress that I had bought myself after landing a huge order 6 months earlier. It cost $1,200, and when I bought it, James had made a comment about it being a bit much for someone who bakes cakes. I had bought it anyway. I did my makeup carefully, put on the diamond earrings I had bought myself for my last birthday, sprayed on my favorite perfume. I looked in the mirror and I saw someone I hadn't seen in years. I saw a woman who knew her worth. Then I called my cousin Andrea and my best friend since college, Keisha. Not because I needed backup. Not because I was scared. But because I needed witnesses for what I was about to do. They both showed up at my house within 20 minutes, both dressed up, both ready. "Girl, what are we doing?" Andrea asked, eyes wide. I smiled and said, "We're going to collect my husband." Before we headed out, I did something that felt powerful. I went online and rented a car for the night. Not just any car. A brand new Mercedes S-Class. Black with tan leather interior, the kind that still has that new car smell. I charged it to my new business credit card, the one with a $40,000 limit that had just arrived in the mail that week. I picked up that car from the luxury rental place, and when I slid into the driver's seat, I felt like a completely different person. Andrea sat in the passenger seat, Keisha in the back, and we drove to the Golden Lounge with the music up and the windows down. The Golden Lounge is one of those places where you need to know somebody to get past the door. There's always a line around the block, velvet ropes, security guards checking names on lists. It's where athletes go, where celebrities show up, where people go to see and be seen. But here's something James didn't know. About 4 months earlier, the owner of the Golden Lounge had reached out to me. She wanted custom desserts for their VIP section. Special occasion cakes, dessert platters, things that would impress their high-end clients. She had found me on Instagram and loved my work. I had been supplying them ever since, and we had become friendly. She knew my work, knew my name, knew my face. So when I pulled up in that Mercedes and walked past that long line of people waiting to get in, the security guard at the front saw me and broke into a huge smile. "Hey, sweet dreams. You here for business or pleasure tonight?" I smiled back and said, "Little bit of both." He unclipped that velvet rope without hesitation and waved me through. Andrea and Keisha followed right behind me, and I could hear people in line whispering, wondering who we were. That felt good. That felt really, really good. I knew exactly where James would be. The VIP section, upper level, overlooking the main floor so he could watch everyone and everyone could see him. That's how he liked it. Always wanting to be seen, always wanting attention. And sure enough, there he was. Sitting in a curved booth with Rachel on one side, 2 of his work friends and their girlfriends on the other side. There were bottles on the table, the expensive kind that cost $500 each and come out with sparklers attached. Everyone was laughing, having the time of their lives like they didn't have a care in the world. James had his arms stretched across the back of the booth behind Rachel. Not touching her exactly, but close. Comfortable. Too comfortable. I walked up those stairs like I owned every single step. Andrea was on my right, Keisha on my left, both of them looking just as confident as I felt. We moved like we belonged there because in that moment, I felt like I did belong there. More than James did, actually. James saw me before I even reached the table. I watched his face go through so many emotions so fast. First surprise, like he couldn't believe I actually showed up. Then confusion, probably wondering why I looked so good. Then panic, like he was trying to figure out what to say. Then this fake smile, trying to pretend everything was normal. "Babe. Hey. I didn't think you'd actually come. We were just about to head out." I didn't sit down. I just stood there at the edge of their table, looking down at all of them. Rachel was staring at me, her eyes going up and down my dress, my shoes, my jewelry, probably trying to calculate how much it all cost. James's friends got real quiet real fast. You could feel the whole energy of the section change. I let the silence sit there for a moment. Let it get uncomfortable. Let James squirm. Then I said, calm as anything, "You texted me to come get you. So here I am." James stood up quickly, tried to reach for me, tried to hug me, but I stepped back. His hands grabbed at air. "Babe, listen, I can explain. We just ran into each other. I had no idea she was going to be here. It's not what it looks like. Rachel jumped in because of course she did. He actually texted me first, she said, her voice all sweet and innocent, like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Said he wanted to catch up. I hope that's okay with you. That tone. That fake sweetness. That way women talk when they're trying to get under your skin. I knew that tone. I had heard it before. Keisha shifted next to me, and I could feel her getting ready to say something, but I put my hand on her arm. No, this was mine. This moment belonged to me. I pulled out my phone, opened my email app, and turned the screen around so the whole table could see. I let them look at it for a few seconds. Let them read the subject line. Let it sink in. You see this? I said, my voice steady and clear. This is the contract I signed tonight. $2.8 million. That little baking thing you've been making fun of for 6 years? It just made me wealthier than you'll ever be. I watched James's face go completely white. I watched Rachel's smug smile melt off her face like ice cream in the sun. The whole table went dead silent. Even the music seemed to get quieter, or maybe that was just in my head. Then I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder. Those postnuptial papers that Mrs. Patterson had prepared. All ready to go. All they needed was a signature. I dropped that folder on the table, right next to those expensive bottles with their sparklers. Here's what's going to happen, James, I said, and my voice didn't shake even a little bit. You're going to sign these papers right now, tonight, or I'm filing for divorce first thing Monday morning. And when I do, you're going to discover something interesting. That house you think is ours? It's mine. I've been paying the mortgage for 3 years. Those cars you drive? Mine. Both in my name. That savings account? Every penny in there came from me. James tried to interrupt, tried to speak, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished, I said. I've got bank statements. I've got receipts. I've got a lawyer who's been preparing for this moment. So you can sign these papers right now and protect what little you do have, or you can fight me and lose everything. Your choice. James picked up the folder with shaking hands. He opened it, started reading, and I could see his face getting redder and redder. His friends were looking at each other like they wanted to disappear into the floor. The girlfriends were staring at me with their mouths open. And Rachel? Rachel looked like she had just swallowed something bitter. This is crazy, James said, his voice cracking a little. We can't talk about this at home? You're embarrassing me in front of everyone. And that's when something inside me just let go. All those years of biting my tongue, all those years of letting him make me feel small, all those years of smiling through the jokes and the comparisons and the little comments. It all just released. I'm embarrassing you? I said, and I could hear my voice getting stronger. You embarrassed yourself when you sent me that text with your ex-girlfriend. You embarrassed yourself every single time you called my business a little baking thing. You embarrassed yourself when you thought I would come running here to fight over you like some desperate woman. I looked around at the whole table, at all of them watching this unfold. Let me tell you something about fighting, I continued. I don't fight for things that don't belong to me. And you, James, you stopped being mine a long time ago. Maybe you never were. Then I looked directly at Rachel. Really looked at her. And I said something I'd been wanting to say for years. Rachel, I know all about you. I know about that condo in Manhattan you're always posting about. You're renting it. I know about those designer bags. Most of them are rented too. I know about the debt you're drowning in, trying to look successful on social media. Girl, you picked the wrong man to try to level up with, because everything he has? It's actually mine. Her face went pale. Completely pale. One of James's friends let out a small laugh before covering it with a cough. James looked at the papers again, looked at me, looked at Rachel, looked back at the papers. His hands were actually trembling now. Baby, please, he said, and his voice was almost begging. Can we just talk about this in private? This isn't fair. Fair, I said, and I almost laughed. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you made fun of my dreams for 6 years? Was it fair when you used her name to make me feel worthless? Was it fair when you sent me that text tonight, trying to make me jealous? You want fair? These papers are more than fair. Sign them or don't. Either way, I'm done. The whole VIP section was watching now. People had their phones out, probably recording. The music was still playing, but nobody in our area was dancing anymore. Everyone was just staring at our table. James looked around, saw all those eyes on him, saw all those phones pointed in our direction. He looked defeated. Broken. Like a man who just realized he had lost something valuable and it was too late to get it back. He picked up the pen that I had clipped to the folder. His hand hovered over the first page for what felt like forever. Then he signed. One page. Then another. Then another. He signed every single page without reading any of it. Just signed and signed and signed. When he was done, I took the folder back, checked to make sure every signature was there, and put it back in my purse. Then I did something that I'm not even sorry about. Something petty, but it felt so good. I called the waiter over. He came quickly, probably sensing the drama. "Yes, ma'am," he asked. "The entire bill for this table," I said, pointing at all those expensive bottles, all those drinks. "He's paying for it. All of it." The waiter nodded, trying not to smile. "Of course." Then I turned to Andrea and Keisha, both of them looking at me with these huge, proud smiles on their faces, and I said, "Let's go." We walked away from that table. We walked down those stairs, through the club, past all the people who had watched the whole thing go down. We walked out into the cool night air and didn't say a word until we got to that beautiful Mercedes. Then we screamed. All three of us. We screamed and laughed and cried and hugged each other right there in the parking lot. We screamed until our throats hurt. And I felt lighter than I had felt in years. Maybe lighter than I had ever felt in my entire life. No more wondering where James was. No more checking his phone when he wasn't looking. No more anxiety eating at me from the inside. No more questions keeping me up at night. Just peace. Pure, clean, beautiful peace. I drove home that night with the windows down and the music up. Andrea and Keisha were singing along to every song, and I felt like I could breathe properly for the first time in years. Like there had been a weight on my chest and somebody had finally lifted it off. When I got home, I climbed into my bed, into sheets that were mine in a house that was mine, and I slept. Really slept. The kind of deep, peaceful sleep where you don't wake up every few hours checking the time or listening for a car in the driveway. I slept like a baby and woke up feeling like a brand new person. James came home the next morning around 10. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept at all. His eyes were red and puffy, his clothes were wrinkled, and he moved like every step hurt. He tried to talk to me, tried to explain, tried to apologize. "I made a mistake," he said. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for things to go this far. Can we please just talk about this?" But I wasn't interested in talking anymore. I had said everything I needed to say at that club. I had spent 6 years talking, explaining, trying to make him understand, trying to make him see me. I was done talking. I told him he had 30 days to find a new place to live. My house, my rules. That's what Mrs. Patterson had advised me to say, and I said it clearly. He tried a few more times over those 30 days. Flowers showed up at my bakery. Voicemails piled up on my phone. He even showed up at my commercial kitchen once, but my staff knew not to let him in. He stood outside for 20 minutes before finally leaving. James moved out in 3 weeks. Took his clothes, his golf clubs, his collection of watches, and left. The house felt bigger after he was gone. Emptier at first, but then it started to feel like mine. Really mine. You want to know the craziest part of this whole story? Rachel stopped calling him after about 2 weeks. Turns out, once she realized that James didn't actually have any money, once she understood that everything he had was because of me, she disappeared like smoke. She really had been looking for someone to help her maintain that lifestyle she was faking on social media. And when she figured out that James was just a regular financial advisor without his wife's empire, she was gone. James tried to come back a few more times. Sent long text messages about how he had made a mistake, how he took me for granted, how he wanted to try again. But I was done. Completely done. I signed divorce papers 2 months after that night at the Golden Lounge, and I have never looked back. Not once. Today, my business is worth over $6 million. Sweet Dreams Bakery supplies desserts to hotels, restaurants, and cafes in 32 states. I have 40 employees. I just bought my dream house, a beautiful place with huge windows and a kitchen bigger than my first apartment. I bought it with my own money, put it in my own name, and every single morning when I wake up there, I feel grateful. I travel when I want to travel. I buy what I want to buy. I answer to nobody but myself. And James? Last I heard through mutual friends, he's still working at the same firm, still trying to impress people, still dating around. Probably telling women about his ex-wife who got lucky with a baking business. Let him tell whatever story he wants. I know the truth. Here's what I learned from all of this, and I really want you to hear me. I want you to take this in and hold on to it. Never, and I mean never, let anyone make you feel small while you're building something big. People will laugh at your dreams because they're scared of their own. They'll call your passion a hobby because they can't see what you see in your mind. They'll try to make you doubt yourself because your confidence threatens them. But you have to keep going. You have to keep building. You have to keep betting on yourself even when nobody else will. Even when the person sleeping next to you every night doesn't believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. And here's the other thing I learned. Protect yourself. Always protect yourself. Get your name on things. Keep track of what's yours. Don't assume that love means someone has your best interest at heart. Love yourself enough to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. If you're going through something similar right now, if someone in your life is making you feel less than what you are, I want you to remember this story. Remember that your worth isn't determined by someone else's opinion of you. Remember that the people who truly love you will celebrate your success, not tear it down. Remember that you are capable of more than you even know right now. Your comeback is always stronger when you build it in silence. When you work hard while they're sleeping, when you stay focused while they're doubting, when you keep pushing while they're laughing. And then one day, you show up and show them exactly who you've become. I hope this story inspired you. I hope it reminded you of your own strength. And if you're building something right now that people are sleeping on, keep going. Your moment is coming. Trust me, it's coming. Stay blessed. Stay focused. And never, ever forget your worth. You deserve everything you're working for. Everything.